My presentation is over Alice Walker. I really like this picture. I think it's neat and shows just her personality and how she really accepts who she is. Alright, so Alice Walker, she grew up in the Deep South. I watched the video where she talked about growing up, and she was the youngest of 8 and a daughter to sharecroppers. Later in her life, she had the opportunity to live elsewhere, and she talked about how she really had the choice of making a life of her own or accepting the responsibility she had to her people, and decided to really dedicate her life to writing about her past and helping others find their future through that, which was really interesting to me. Early on in her life, she had an injury which helped her development as a writer. She was playing a game with her brothers when one of them shot her in the eye with a BB gun. It led to an injury where she couldn't use her right eye, and really gave her some self-confidence issues where she kind of withdrew from people. During that time, she read a lot and began to write, and she says that she used that time to really discover who she was, and if it wasn't for that time, she might not be the writer she is today, which is really interesting. Growing up, she went to segregated schools, and even though her family was poor and didn't have the best opportunities, she made the most of it and was valedictorian. That allowed her to get some scholarships, and she was able to go to college. First was Spelman College, which was an all-black women's school, and I really think that that kind of helped her in her writing as well. And I'll talk about later her feminist approach to things and how she really uses her central characters to give the black women a voice. She later went to Sarah Lawrence College in New York, where she graduated, and then as soon as she graduated, she wrote her first essay. She was always a civil rights activist and very involved in being a forerunner and a voice to her generation. She met Dr. King and ate at his house after he met her at a Youth World Peace Festival, and she also took time to help black voters register, which is really neat. And I think that just from the beginning, she was very involved in things, which gave her the foundation she needed and the credit she needed as a writer. She married Melvin Leventhal, which made them the first interracial couple living in Missouri. He was a Jewish lawyer, so already she was very unique, and they had one child and then later divorced. In 1983, she won the Pulitzer Prize for The Color Purple. Later on, The Color Purple became a movie in which several big black women's rights leaders were in, one of them being Oprah. And I just think it's really cool that she found other women with great voices and great influence to help her spread her literature and spread her ideas in that movement. And definitely that book is one that everyone knows just by the name. In that book, she explores the African American experience through through her central character. Even today, she is still an advocate for women's rights internationally. With the Women for Women International, they talk about her helping with the horrors in Rwanda and Congo and even Israel, and helping her become a political advocate, and how she still fights for the rights of women everywhere and uses her literature and her essays to do that. She was also a teacher for some point in her life, which was really interesting that she was able to spread and help other women learn. She wrote lots of poetry and novels and short stories and essays, and overall she has just slowly been expanding her experiences and getting her hands as dirty as possible, which has really led her to an amazing writer for 4 decades, just very cultured, and she has just a lot of different approaches to writing and lots of different experiences. It's very cool. One of the terms she coined was a womanist, and I just thought that that was really neat that she just kind of created her own use of her literature. And she described herself as being a womanist, which means that she was someone who appreciates women's culture, emotions, and character. And so this was just a quote I found that I really thought was neat that somebody else was able to see in her. The top part of this is my working thesis. It's not perfect, but it kind of gives you the sense of what I'm trying to do. I will be using feminist criticism in 2 of her short stories, and then the boxes are just some of the ideas I have on expanding that. What was women's identity? How did she use symbolism? And then something I found really cool was how she presented women and how she presented men in her books. And maybe is that how she, I'm sorry, how men are presented compared to the women, just how different that is and how much we can draw on that even. And then her characters are so strong, and just the whole reflection of the human experience as a whole. She just has a lot to offer, so it'll be interesting to explore in that. Here are some of the sources I used, and I just look forward to writing more on Alice Walker and really discovering who she is as a feminist writer.